What's going on? Welcome to the channel. If you guys don't know, my name is Jason Pellegrini, or also known as BlameForex on Instagram. And yeah, I've been trading since I was 16 years old. And today we're talking about ES futures. All right, so the ES futures market is been very volatile recently. So if you're trading futures, you better be very damn experienced and know what you're doing, because shit can get crazy. But yeah, today was one of those crazy days where the market sold off like 100 fucking points. So what happened today? So coming into today, let me let you behind the scenes of what I was looking at going into this session. All right. So this, what you're seeing, this chart that I just brought over here, is a market profile chart. And basically how I use market profile is just to gauge what's going on in a market. And market profile really helps me understand what's going on in the markets. So real quick, there was a couple things that we pointed out early on in the session, or I pointed out at least. If we zoom out, we'll see what we were looking at coming into the session. So let me just scroll to the side so you can't really see today yet, and we'll go from there. But so these levels, this is a very visual reference point right here. Like we have yesterday's low at, what is this, 32.14, we'll call it. 32.14 is yesterday's low. Now, once you see this area go shaded, that means that the market's closed, right? So coming into the overnight session, we saw another low made at exactly 6 o'clock. Once the market opened back up. And look, exact same low as the low from the regular trading hours. That's a weak low, we call it. So when you have some kind of buying, like we have right here, when you have some buying at exact reference points like that, more times than not, it's weak hands holding these trades. Like overnight session alone is mostly, weaker retail traders trading during these hours. So yeah, we're looking at a weak low very early in the overnight session. So that's a level that I was looking at to get taken out to the downside coming into the open. So another thing that I was looking at coming into the open, the market was long. So we had a close yesterday of right here. Market closed about 32.27 right there. And coming into the open, where was price? Above 32.27. So the market's long overnight. 70% of the time, you get a correction of the overnight inventory. So going with that, I was looking for a short off the open because market was long overnight. It wasn't super long, but the market was long overnight. So coming into the open, I was looking for a correction, so a little sell-off. But this sell-off actually got carried away. Sellers got what they wanted today. And yeah, we took some parts of this, but let's get into where we saw the trade. So early on the open, right? Market opens up and seems like it's pushing higher, and then it kind of rejects pretty abruptly. And it rejected exactly at this reference point here, yesterday's value area high. So if you're looking on the left side where my crosshair's at, you'll see that on yesterday's profile, this is yesterday's distribution on the market profile chart. So basically every one of these little blocks, you're only seeing one because that's where we're at right now. If I zoom out, you'll see a bunch more. So these blocks are, or these distributions, these are called distributions or profiles, whatever you want to call them. But basically what we're looking at is, what we want to focus on is the value area. So you see this line at the bottom, 32.24, that's yesterday's value area low. 32.46.75, that's yesterday's value area high. That's the high of the day of today where price rejected. So that was, something I was looking at. I was looking at, hey, this rejection was actually yesterday's high. Maybe we'll just trade like an inside day. This might be just an inside day inside of yesterday's range. And that's what it looked like for the first like almost hour of the session. And then it really started to crack like towards the end of B period, like around 10-ish, right at 10. But yeah, so A period, first 30 minutes of the open, it opened up at right here, 32.40, wicked into yesterday's value area high, and rejected pretty strong, and the market never came back to retest that high. So seeing that, I was very interested in shorts, just fading the weak buying, like literally inside day fading the weak buying at those highs, going with the shorts to take out these overnight lows, right? So we're building here, right? So we have a reference point coming into the open already, these weak lows. Odds are likely those get taken out on today's session, just given that those are weak lows. Like, who the fuck is buying at exactly the low from the low of the day during the regular trading hours? Weak hands. And when, weak hands get shaken out, they get shaken out. And it looked pretty bad for those longs this morning, or today, all day, rather. But yeah, those weak hands got shaken out, and I actually got short like 32.35 was my entry today, which was actually part of this chart right here. So we had price. It was actually a late entry. Like I was in about 10 o'clock is when I got in. So yeah, I saw price breaking below, and it was still holding. It didn't take out that 32. It didn't take out that poor low, right? When it made that first push down right here, up until like 9:45, I was still flat. Like I was still not in a position from this whole sell-off right here. But yeah, I saw price come back up after it did not take out that low. It kind of just added to the low right here around 9:40 when that first sell-off hit. It like added to the weak low. So another kind of confirmation, like, hey, maybe this thing is really getting ready to rip to the downside. And there was just like a small little rally from people buying at those lows, exact reference points. So I saw that as like a pullback, like a retracement. And I went short at 32.35 with 5 contracts with a target at this weak low that I've been talking about. The weak low was the first target, scaled some out there. And then we also had other reference points if this 32.12 wasn't able to hold up. And those older reference points, so we had 32.12 was the first target to the downside, and then 31.87 was the next target to the downside. And let's see where that next target was from, 32.87. If we make this a little bigger, we'll zoom back. 32.87 was right here. And what is this showing? This is showing a gap from Friday, December 13th. All right. So we had a gap. Well, we had plenty of fucking gaps that the market left on like the December, January rallies, but we had a gap. So this was another just simple reference point target for shorts. For, if you're short, there's a target for this gap to get filled. And that's exactly what happened there. So, all right, this gap got filled. Now what? I took some more off there. Actually, I wasn't in till there. I actually took mine off at 32, like right here, 32.07, as price was bouncing off this point of control. So I actually hit a 30-point trade, hit my targets right here at 32.07. This was another target before we filled that gap. And there we saw a little bounce off of that level. So that's where I went and covered my position. Sorry if I confused you a little bit. But yeah, another target, if it was to continue, would have been the fill of that gap at 31.87. And yeah, so once my target was hit, I was up like 30 points on this trade. I was like, you know what, this is it. I'm done for the day. This is cool. That's it. I made my trade. Targets were hit. Sayonara. I'm out of here. So I'm sitting there watching the market flat, up like $6,000. And then this thing just keeps going and going and going and going. So that 7K, I made like 6.7K on this trade. But that trade would have been worth 25K had I held till like the final targets down there, because it fucking just kept going and going and going. And people were trying to catch the falling knife, and they just kept getting screwed and screwed and screwed. But yeah, this thing just sold off completely today. Filled that gap at 31.87. That was the first gap fill that we were looking at, because below this 32.12 we had, not a lot of room, not a lot of support to lean on. But yeah, that was where, those are the lower targets that I was looking at for the day, and all of them got hit. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, that was kind of what was going on. And then below, so yeah, there was more gaps. So even another gap was at 31.2350. So I was in the chat room all day calling out these gaps, like, hey, next lower target is here, next lower level is here. And yeah, this thing just kept filling those gaps. But yeah, there's more gaps down there, don't you worry. So 30.9775 is the next gap that may want to be filled if it does sell off again at some point. 30.9775, remember that level. But yeah, that was the short today from 32.35. Just adding a bunch of data points, putting them together, understanding what the market's doing, and yeah, putting it all together. Just comes down to being confident in the setup and being patient and letting it run. I didn't let it run all the way, but it ran enough. I was cool with the profits there. I wasn't expecting another 70-point rip. I don't think anyone else was. But yeah, below this 32.12, we knew that it had some potential to just zip down, and that's what happened. But an easy way to understand that was by looking at, an obvious way to understand that actually this morning was by looking at the market profile chart. And then the confirmation that the sell-off was, getting ready to go was the break and hold below yesterday's value area low, below 32.25 and a quarter. Once we saw that B period smash right through, that was it. That was the confirmation. Hey, time to get out of those long positions because this is ready to go. And that's exactly how it went down. You can't predict this kind of shit. It just happens when it happens, but you could, prepare yourself for it. But yeah, that was the ES trade, and that was kind of my thought process behind the damn trade. Obviously I didn't catch the whole fucking move, 100-point drop, but we were in it from 32.35 to like 32.07, which is a nice move if you ask me. Keep catching those and you'll be rich sooner or later. But yeah, that was the trade. I hope I didn't confuse you. If you're new to market profile, I suggest you look into it. It's very, very good stuff. I'll try and post more about market profile. If you want me to, just let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you guys are confused with what I'm saying. I hope I explained it a little bit at least. But if you're a market profile trader, you'll understand what I'm talking about and understand how crucial it is. Market profile is like the foundation of how I trade. Yeah, that is it. That's all I got for you today. ES, we'll see where it's at tomorrow morning. See, I don't know what it'll do, this overnight session, but What I do know is I will look to see what the market did overnight when I wake up tomorrow, and I'll make my decisions based on that. So with that being said, let me know what you think about this video down below. If you're confused, if you have questions, anything, let me know. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.